What is up, everybody? You're very welcome along to tonight's late night agenda. As always, I'm your host Craig and you are very welcome to the show. There's a load to get through tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously England are in action, there'll be a lot of people watching that, but the PFA awards have been announced tonight as well. We'll go through that. We will of course touch on the title of tonight's stream, which as you can guess is about Raheem BREWSTER. But look, I want to start off tonight's stream, ladies and gentlemen, by saying a very special happy 14th birthday to Theo. Theo's mum contacted us on Instagram to say that he's a big fan of the show and asked if we could give him a little mention on his birthday, and of course we're more than happy to do so. So thank you to Christine, Theo's mum, for getting in contact, and most importantly, thank you to Theo for watching, mate. You've no idea what it means to us. We love knowing that people around the world enjoy what we do. 14, I wish I was 14 again, my friend. Thank you for watching. I hope you've had a wonderful day, and thank you to your mum again for getting in contact. Look, ladies and gentlemen, let's do what we always do when it's one of our own's birthday. Let's make sure that we fill that screen up with love hearts for a young Red who's out there enjoying the channel, and I hope you enjoy the season ahead as well, Theo. Happy birthday from myself, Connor, and everybody associated with Anfield Agenda. It's always a pleasure, mate. So I hope you continue to enjoy it, and I hope your mum doesn't mind a little bit of the swearing, because there's going to be a bit coming ahead this season, my friend. Have a good one, buddy. I hope you had a lovely day, and thank you again for watching. Right, ladies and gents, how are we? I love things like that. I love saying happy birthday to a young man like that who's celebrating 14th. Oh, to be 14 again, I tell you. I do it all over again. I do it in a completely different way. Look, ladies and gents, loads for us to get through tonight. How are you all doing? I hope that you're well. I know that tonight's stream title isn't going to make a change from what we've spoken about, but look, I will get stuck into it. Happy birthday as well, Ken Coastal Holiday. Let's put in a little super chat as well. Number one fan, thank you for the super chat, Carl. I hope yourself and Julia are well. I know it's a crazy busy season for you guys in the work that you do. Look at this. Happy birthday to Theo as well. Look, ladies and gentlemen, I did say that the PFA awards have taken place today. Some good news and some not so good news from a Liverpool player's perspective. Let's start off perhaps with the PFA Team of the Year. Shall we go with that one and build up to the big one? If you haven't seen this one, let me break the news to you. The PFA Team of the Year is as follows. In goal, Nick Pope of Burnley had a fantastic season, and look, nobody could begrudge him it really. Right back, of course, it's Trent Alexander-Arnold. Then there's Virgil van Dijk in the centre-back position. Soyuncu from Leicester also makes the centre-back Team of the Year. Who else we got? Andy Robertson, of course, at left-back, as if there could be any other options there. And, you know, I think that's a fair back four, back five if you include the goalkeeper. Moving into midfield now, obviously Kevin De Bruyne makes the Team of the Year as well. Congratulations to him. The Manchester City's outgoing David Silva also got voted in the Team of the Year. Look, the Premier League is going to be all the worse for not having David Silva in it. Whatever we think of opposition clubs, whatever we think of opposition players, that man has been a joy to watch in the Premier League, and he moves on to pastures new at Real Sociedad. So congratulations to him. Our captain, Jordan Henderson, has also been included. El Capitan in the Team of the Year. He could not be included, to be fair. He's had a wonderful season. Lifted Liverpool, brought us to a Premier League title. Congratulations to the captain. Now, moving on to the attacking trio. Jamie Vardy of Leicester City, obviously fully deserves to be in there. Magnificent season for him as well. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, he also makes the Team of the Year. Again, very hard to make an argument against. And then Sadio Mane finishes off the 11. No place in the Team of the Year for Mohamed Salah, which I know a lot of people will be a little bit upset about, but you have to be honest in these things as well. Aubameyang and Vardy have had excellent seasons. So congratulations to everybody who made it into the PFA Team of the Year. Let me know your thoughts on it, if you agree with it, if you disagree with it, if there's anybody you'd like to have seen put in, or anybody that you don't think deserves a spot in there. The Young Player of the Year was, of course, won by our very own Trent Alexander-Arnold. Another thoroughly deserved badge of honour. Another award for Trent, and hopefully he'll be pushing for the senior award next year. He probably could have been close enough to it this year, but look, it was no question. People were asking me for weeks building up to this, do you think Trent will get it? I just didn't think there was anybody who could touch him, to be fair. So congratulations for him. And now for the big one, ladies and gentlemen. The PFA Player of the Year has gone to Manchester City's Kevin De Bruyne. Again, he had a remarkable season. Virgil van Dijk, I believe, came in second place. Now, I haven't got the full information at hand before we start off the stream. This is just breaking news pretty much as we're doing this. So congratulations to Kevin De Bruyne. It was always going to be one of those where I've said all along, if De Bruyne won it, you've got to just shrug your shoulders and say fair play. He had a magnificent season, so congratulations to him. Moving on to the ladies' awards now, the PFA Women's Player of the Year was won by Beth Mead Mead of Chelsea. Congratulations to her. And the PFA Women's Young Player of the Year was won by Lauren Hemp of Manchester City. And congratulations to Lauren as well. All worthy winners of the awards tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And look, it's one of those, I mean, we could talk about this. I could go add in a player, take out a player, but look, you have to say it's pretty much on the money. I mean, it was touch and go. A lot of people thought that maybe Hendo could get in there, Van Dijk could get in there, but we have to say De Bruyne did have a very good season. As much as we want Liverpool to sweep the awards, Liverpool players have won it as well in seasons when Manchester City have won the league. But look, for me, congratulations to De Bruyne. It's one of those things. We move on and we start to defend to the Premier League crown, obviously at the weekend against Leeds. We'll be looking forward to that as the week moves on, but we'll be talking transfers tonight, ladies and gentlemen, because there is a mixed bag, I think it's fair to say. But look, let me just dip into the chat, say hello to a few people, because I feel rude when I don't do that. I like to dip into the chat and say hello. Paul said Danny Ings was unlucky not to be in it. Fantastic season for Ings, he really was. One of those where you look and go, oh, did we move him on a little bit too early? But to be fair, he probably wouldn't have got the game time to produce the goals that he did this season for Southampton. So yeah, great season for Danny Ings and a lot of Reds, all the Reds that I know, wish Ings nothing but the best as well. Great to see him back doing what he does best, which is putting the ball in the net. No United players in there, said Scotty. Well, to be fair, mate, do you know what? If there was an award for the most penalties won in a season, United would get it. Do you know what I mean? If there was an award for standing on players' feet and getting a penalty, Bruno Fernandes has been nailed on for it. But, we're in the real world here. Well, that was real world, Craig, so we'll just move on, because we don't want to be talking about United players. I'm sick of listening about United, to be honest with you. This is a Liverpool show, folks. If we weren't biased, we know Salah didn't deserve it. He's been way too inconsistent, said Ronald Weasley. Well, look, mate, his fellow professionals voted for this one, so they obviously were in agreement with some of what you said, although, I don't think they'll be saying he's too inconsistent. He still had a very good season, Mohamed Salah, and he's still a world-class talent that we're blessed to have at the club. It's not a mixed bag, Craig. The bag is filled with disappointment, said Richard. Yeah, I'm trying to put a positive spin on it, Richard. You know me, mate. I try and find a positive wherever I can, but look, shall we move on to the Raheem Brewster situation? Because that's the big one for me tonight. That's the one that I've been thinking about all day and wondering. Well, I knew what I wanted to say, but it was one of those scenarios where I'm trying to be mindful of what I say, because everything I say now, I'd like to caveat with the fact that the window isn't closed yet. Nothing has happened yet. We haven't kicked the ball or dropped the point yet. So it's very difficult for me to be on here and be disappointed in a season that hasn't started. But that being said, let me say, Sky Sports have reported that Liverpool are willing to consider offers to sell Raheem Brewster. Yes, you did hear me right, folks. I did say to sell Raheem Brewster, but with the protection of a buyback clause inserted into any deal. Now, somebody mentioned this to me last night. In fact, I think somebody mentioned it to me a couple of days ago, and I rubbished it. I said you can put it in there with the Koulibaly pile and throw it in the bin. It is something that I never thought was going to happen. Now, it may not happen yet, but I'm going to go into it in more detail, and I'm going to talk about why perhaps, in my opinion, this may happen. And again, I think there's a lot of PR involved in this, and I'll talk through that as well. So the article goes on to say that absolutely everything that I've read, I should say, not the article, goes on to say, everything I've read over the past weeks, and in fact months, has suggested that there was a couple of options for Jurgen Klopp at Raheem Brewster. And you might remember just last week, there was a piece put out to suggest that Jurgen Klopp had decided that Raheem Brewster was going to stay at the club until at least January, when they then reassess whether he potentially go out on loan. And that was about as far as I had read and seen that the club were willing to do with Raheem Brewster. There was never any talk of a £20 million sale. There was one lad on Twitter who I think used to work for Sky last week that put out there that said that Raheem Brewster was available for sale for $20 million at Crystal Palace. I think Sheffield United, maybe Leeds, were looking at him. And again, I rubbish that as complete nonsense. Everything I've read, everyone I've spoken to, everyone I've DM'd, any WhatsApp messages I've got, none of them had suggested anything about Raheem Brewster possibly being available for sale. There's two ways of looking at this. People are going to come at me and say there's a buyback clause in there. It's a way for the club to free up money. Quite frankly, it's an embarrassment, in my opinion, if this happens. And another massive PR own goal. I don't understand it. I don't understand the Premier League champions potentially needing to move on what is, in my opinion, potentially a generational talent. Raheem Brewster knows where the goal is. Nobody is in any doubt about that. Raheem Brewster wants to be at Liverpool Football Club. Raheem Brewster has said even the thoughts of going out on loan to him isn't as appealing as staying at Liverpool and working with Jurgen Klopp and fighting to get into this team. And this could be the final kick in the nuts in this transfer window of what has been a very frustrating transfer window for Liverpool Football Club fans so far. Again, I'm going to caveat what I'm saying by putting out there that this window hasn't yet closed. We have until October the 5th, and the club probably will dip their toes into the market and get some business done. But that being said, we have to look at the PR side of this, and I'm always cynical when it comes to these type of things. Here's my take on it, and again, this is just a fan's take. It's not based on economics, it's not based on any inside information that I have, it's just my opinion. We've seen in this window, Liverpool, first of all, go and furlough staff, and then we'd seen that decision reversed. They said because they had a rethink. We all know it was because of the PR backlash and the fans out there saying that it isn't the way we do things. We were then kind of warned that this could lead to us not having much money in the window. I'm not saying just because of that. There's obviously varying reasons with regards to where the world is at this moment in time, the lack of people being inside stadiums, so many other things, rebates to television companies and lots of other bits and pieces in between. But look, this does not look good on our football club. Somebody who we've been touting and somebody who we've been talking about as a future star potentially being available for sale with a buyback clause? Is this what we've come to? Is this what we're reduced to in this transfer window? Potentially selling BREWSTER. And I don't care if there's a buyback clause in there. I don't care what the buyback clause said. To me, it's ridiculous. If you want to loan out Raheem BREWSTER, loan him out. You'll probably receive a loan fee and the guy goes and gets minutes. But the thoughts of putting him out there with a buyback clause, it's ridiculous. It is, and look, I know people are going to come at me and say it might free up 20 million quid. I don't care. The owner should be loaning that 20 million quid if they want to hang off for a couple of years. Raheem BREWSTER should either go out on loan and remain at Liverpool Football Club, one or the other. And I'm yet to find a single red that agrees with this stance on potentially selling Raheem BREWSTER. It is so off the wall for me that I'm still scratching my head to try and figure out how exactly we've got to this position. The transfer window, let's go back through it and work our way towards where we are right now. So the window began, and as I said, the furloughing of staff, PR backlash, fans up in arms, rightly so by the way. Then we get to the point that it could be a window where we have to sit back and we have to wait and see what happens. We have to wait and see if we can move on fringe players. Thiago seems to be waiting with bated breath to see what happens. Barcelona, which I'll touch on later on, seem to have cooled their interest in him. So he's there nailed on, waiting to become a Liverpool player. We've also heard that if that's to happen, we probably have to move on Wijnaldum. None of us want to do that, but a lot of people understood that that may be a necessary sacrifice if Jurgen Klopp wants to go out and get Thiago. And that's without mentioning Timo Werner, by the way, who Jurgen Klopp wanted. No secret, Jurgen Klopp wanted him, spoke to him, asked him to remain patient and hang on, but Timo Werner didn't want a repeat of what happened last summer when he didn't get his move to Bayern Munich, so he decided to go with Frank Lampard and Chelsea, and best of luck to him. But again, it's another kick in the nuts for Liverpool fans, another kick in the nuts for our manager who's already working miracles. Now, I'm not anti-FSG. I'm not one of these FSG out people, far from it. I can understand, and I read the Swiss Ramble thread on Twitter, very insightful, very complicated, but very insightful, and it does explain the situation. But it also explains that other clubs have had owners that have loaned them money in the short term to be able to go out and do business in this window. And that's not usually the way our owners have gone about doing it. But we are after winning the Premier League. There are certain players out there in this market now who are available for a very reasonable sum. Thiago, €30 million, at £27 million. Ismail Assar may be available for between £30 and £40 million. Patson Daka. We've got the whole Jadon Sancho scenario, which, look, realistically, none of us expected us to be dropping 100 million this summer. None of us expected us to be out there signing the likes of Kai Havertz. But to be nickel and diming around Thiago, to be going into a season knowing that we won't have enough to bring in a fourth choice centre back and we may be relying on Fabinho or Billy Cometio, we can all understand that to some extent if it brings us Ismail Assar, if it brings us Thiago, if it strengthens our hand going into the new season. It's a really difficult situation, but to me, BREWSTER is the last straw. BREWSTER is off limits as far as I'm concerned. I don't care what the buyback clause said. I don't care. You're going to have to pay a little premium on top of what you pay for the kid one way or the other. And as I said, you would get a loan fee if you loan them out. I hope so much that this is nonsense. Because Raheem BREWSTER deserves better than that. Liverpool Football Club's fans deserve better than that. The manager deserves better than that. And look, I hate being negative. I hate it. I don't want to be on here talking negatively about the owners. And I don't want to be on here complaining about our transfer business. But it's getting to a point where we're becoming a laughing stock in the market. Premier League champions. We had all talk all year about this fantastic new Nike deal that was going to be bringing us in up to potentially 80 million quid. We understand what happened. We're not idiots, but we're being taken for idiots at times. Are they testing the waters here? Or maybe the owners just putting it out there to see what the reaction will be from fans, and then if we don't sell Raheem BREWSTER, we'll all take a big deep breath and be happy, but then we'll be blindsided and distracted by the fact that maybe we haven't done other stuff in this window. I don't know, but I'd love to know your opinion on it, folks. Please do let me know in the comment section. I'm fuming, and anybody I've spoke to about this today has been fuming, because it just seems like nickel and diamond cheapskate stuff, and we should be above this as a football club. Liverpool's fans have realistic ambitions. We've always known that we're not going to be out there signing the Kylian Mbappes, the Neymars, the Messis, the Cristiano Ronaldos. We've understood that. We've understood that the club is in a position where it has to work within its means. It can only spend what it brings in, and that the owners have always wanted to run it sustainably. I get that. I also appreciate the fact that we don't want the club leveraged full of debt when something else goes wrong, and then we're in a position where we were with the Royal Bank of Scotland all those years ago before the owners came in. But it's starting to take the piss. This repetitive build-up transfer windows, sorry, let me just grab the house phone here. That's, sorry, somebody ringing the house phone. This repetitive transfer window here is, it's just not going to happen. This stuff shouldn't happen, and we should be above it. That's my take on it, and I'd love to know your thoughts on it. So yeah, please do let me know. I'd love to know. Please let me know. Sorry about the little interruption, but this is the beauty of having a house phone beside you in the gaff. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like this happens. The mother-in-law's ringing. What do? Do you answer? Right, let's get it. Look, Rob, I'm not into the FSG out stuff. That to me is a little bit too far, because as much as I'm being critical of this situation, I have a lot of admiration and respect for what the owners have done. I mean, we're talking, I'm here complaining from a position that we've won the Premier League, that we've won the European Cup, that we've won the Super Cup and the Club World Cup. We've got Jurgen Klopp. Look, you know the list. You don't need me to go through the list. But this is... It's embarrassing, ladies and gentlemen, if it's true. It's embarrassing, it's depressing, and it's not the stuff that we want to be reading or talking about before we go into the defence of our Premier League crown. It is, quite frankly, turning the club into a bit of a laughing stock in the transfer market, and it's so unnecessary. That's the funny part of all of this. If there is any funny part about it, it's so unnecessary. We know what needs to be done. We're talking about, what, 70 million quid at the most for the two additions that we need to bring in, and that's before we move the fringe players on. We'll talk about Harry Wilson, we'll talk about Shaqiri, Divock Origi and the others. In this window, from what I've read, we're at 3 million plus with regards to our transfer business. We got the money for moving the kid on to Reading, we got the money for Dejan Love, and of course we spent some on Costa Simicas, who looks like a very good piece of business. And that's before the piss taken from Norwich, by the way, about Jamal Lewis. I'd love to know your take on that. Naeem said we need creativity throughout the middle, Craig. It's a must, and thank you for the super chat, Naeem. I really appreciate it, mate. Let me get back onto the Norwich situation about Jamal Lewis, by the way. We bid, I think, somewhere around 12 million for Jamal Lewis. Maybe somewhere between 10 and 12 million. And Norwich immediately rebuffed that and said that the number is 20, and that is the number. And then we see that Newcastle go and sign Jamal Lewis for, I think, around 13.5 million quid. Now, I'm not so annoyed from Liverpool's perspective, because we've gone out there and we've got ourselves a very good player in Costa Simicas, and I think a lot of Reds are happy. But Jamal Lewis had the opportunity to come to the Premier League champions, and Norwich City basically screwed him over by not accepting from us pretty much what they ended up accepting from Newcastle. That's not a good look, and that's not a good way of attracting young players to your club if they know that they're there and they may get a bigger move down the line. The bigger move comes and then the club start playing hardball. That whole situation really made me feel for Jamal Lewis, so I believe cut his holiday short to try and get that deal sorted with the Reds, and it didn't work out. So another interesting twist in this transfer window as well. Massive shout out and thank you as well to Mark Olbridge, by the way, for coming on last night for a chat. Always enjoy catching up with Mark, and look, it's good as a channel to see the United stand going from strength to strength. Obviously, as a club, we don't want United to do anything, but really did enjoy chatting with Mark last night, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Look, you don't need me to plug the United stand. You know who Mark is. You know what the United stand is. Just happy for him that he's doing so well. But look, I want to get your thoughts. This is going to be a stream where I know a lot of people are going to want to vent, and I'm going to give you that option to vent, ladies and gents. Do you want to get your comments in? Super chats are open, super stickers are open. Obviously, our members as well. If you want to become a member of Anfield Agenda FC, hit that blue join button. There's a link in the description. It's $4.99 a month. You get the logo beside your name. You get the emojis. You get access to the exclusive Discord group, which I promise you is where all of our breaking news goes in and all of our thoughts for the season ahead and other bits and pieces as well. Most of the guys who are admins on our Flick Chat account are members as well, because we know we can trust them because we interact with them daily. So that's available to you guys as well. Right, what else have we got? FSG creates this tension and divide, said Uncle F. Seems completely unnecessary to me. I mean, the furlough thing was a joke at the start. I mean, a joke, and I'm not saying a joke is in a ha-ha way. I mean, it was ridiculous that it happened. How they allowed that to happen, I do not know. But then there's also another side of this that I haven't really touched on yet, and that is the side from across the pond. There was some talk as well that because FSG have had to pull back some money from the Boston Red Sox and they're going through some hardships, I believe, and I don't keep up to date with the Boston Red Sox, but, there was a train of thought put out there by a journalist or two that maybe Liverpool aren't going to spend that much money because it looks bad if we're out there spending the money and the Red Sox are having to cut their cloth accordingly. Doesn't sit well with me because I really couldn't give a shiny shit about the Boston Red Sox and what they do. Lots of love to their fans, by the way, and I hope they have a good season ahead, but with regards to Liverpool Football Club, that is my primary interest, and I know it is for you guys as well. Ken Coastal Holiday Let's, again, thank you for the super chat. Carl said, like I've said before, I'm fed up with googling a player's name when we signed him. I'd just like to know the player's name without using the internet. Yeah, there has been a few of them, Carl, but I would say Kloppo's usually got it right. And in the manager in this, by the way, nothing but 100% trust from all of us. Nobody's having a pop at the manager. The manager and his team are identifying the targets, and they're doing so within the perimeters of what was pointed out to them when they signed their contracts. We always knew that Klopp wasn't going to have a blank checkbook, but I never thought that I'd hear the phrase Timo Werner being turned down to Jurgen Klopp by the board. 50 million quid, probably for a 70-80 million quid player realistically. It just doesn't sit well. It's making this transfer window even more frustrating, and I just want the Premier League to kick off. I want this window to shut closed because I'm sick of it. It's a window that we thought we'd do a little bit of business in, but we still might. But God, it's frustrating. Right, let's move on anyway. Our rivals are closing the gap big time to the Elijah John 5. I know a lot of people are freaking out about the business that Chelsea are doing, and look, it's understandable, but what I will say is it's going to take a lot for those players to gel. There is a lot of... This is a bit of a Hail Mary from Roman Abramovich with regards to backing Frankie Lampard and getting Chelsea back up to where he wants them to be, which is challenging for the title. So there's no more excuses now for Mr. Lampard. The pressure's on for him. And it'll be interesting to see how quickly he can get those players to gel. But I don't think that they'll be challenging for a title this season, personally. I think if we do nothing this season, I still think... in the window, I still think it'll be us and Manchester City going head-to-head for that Premier League title. City, I think, have gone out there and dropped somewhere between 75 and 82 million quid already. They're talking about Koulibaly and they're looking at other stuff. They've got Manchester United, obviously signed Donny van de Beek, and as you heard from Mark last night, they're still very confident that United will go out there and get Jadon Sancho. Everton, the Ev, the Blue Shy, the people that we usually sit here and have a chuckle about, they've gone out into the window. Look, they've signed players that I wouldn't really want to bring into Liverpool. James Rodriguez, the second best James on Merseyside now, behind Mr. Milner, of course. They've gone out there and again, Alan, of course, from Napoli, who you guys might remember from our tussles with them. And then there's the Corey, who they've been linked with as well. And that's going to happen in due course. So, and a lot of these are coming from loans from the owners. There's got to be clear about this. We touched on it before. There's a lot of clubs. I think Spurs have got a loan. Everton have a loan, I think. We spoke about Roman Abramovich and Chelsea. I'm not too sure. Manchester City, their owners, we know, have seemed to have never-ending pockets anyway. It's frustrating as hell. And then we look at Wolves. They're out there strengthening. Leeds back up from the Championship. I think they've dropped somewhere like 120 million plus so far, which, we spoke last year. I think Villa spent 100 million coming up to the Premier League, and that was the first time that had been done, to my knowledge. And now Leeds coming straight up, and their owners backing them as well. Even Villa, I think, isn't it Villa who've gone out there today and agreed a deal to bring in the kid Ollie Watkins from Brentford for something like 28 million quid, which is a little bit too much for Ollie Watkins if I'm challenged. Again, football's not played on paper though, pal. That's the thing. On paper, you look at Chelsea's team, the defence is still a bit suspect, but it is a good side. But they have to gel. They all have to hit the ground. They have to adapt to the Premier League. We've seen time and time again that it can take some players no time. They come in, hit the ground running, but other players, they might take 3, 6, 9 months before they fully get acclimatised to the Premier League. So I don't think that it's an automatic title challenge for Chelsea. But look, we'll wait and see what happens. What have we got? Okay, I'm going to try and get through as many of your comments as I can. I think there was one from Brian Morrissey. Brian's in the chat. Brian, how are you, buddy? Lovely to see you in. I hope that you're well. I'd love to know your thoughts on this crazy transfer window as well. Okay, let me get through some more of your comments. No excuses. We should be shining at least 2 quality players. That Elijah John 5. Ken Coastal Holiday Let said, I trust Klopp. The owners have done well to get us where they are now, but we need a few key signings and I'm slowly losing faith. This is really difficult because, as I said so many times, and I've got to keep reiterating this, we haven't kicked the ball yet this season. I've seen some Liverpool fans write us off out of the top 4, which is just beyond ridiculous. I mean, there's going over the top, but there's going over the top. Whatever happens, we're nailed on for a top 4 finish. I can't see any way that we won't be in the top 4. But look, we shouldn't be looking at the top 4. We should be looking to defend our title. And that's what we, as Liverpool fans, want us to do. Frustration in this window, ladies and gentlemen. Let me get into some more transfer talk, or do you want me to go through more of your comments? Let's have a look at some comments, actually. Craig, would you ever start Brewster over Firmino? Not yet, Harry, no. If I'm being honest with you, no. The idea of Raheem Brewster going out on loan, I think a lot of us could live with because we knew that he'd get minutes. The likes of going to Sheffield United to play on the Chris Wilder. You can see the sense there, maybe even Leeds, somebody like that. But no, he's not ready to start over Bobby Firmino. But that doesn't mean that Raheem Brewster couldn't get minutes or couldn't get chances this season if he did stay with the first team. He'd obviously get the domestic cup competitions, and he could probably sub in for Bobby Firmino at times, get 30 minutes here or there, and you know, maybe Klopp throws a surprise if he wants to rotate and give Bobby or one of the other forwards a rest. There's always the option to drop Bobby a bit deeper as well. And Takumi has had a very good pre-season. I mean, I did say it was a mixed bag at the start, by the way, and then there is some positives from this pre-season. Takumi's looked really bright. Obviously got his goal against Arsenal in the Community Shield, very well against Blackpool as well, and he's starting to show that he's ready now, that he's getting used to what the Premier League's about and what Klopp's asking of him. Keane O'Brien said, hi Craig, when do you think the Thiago deal will happen? So we have a little talk about Thiago then, because that is this summer's transfer saga for Liverpool. Again, seems a very unnecessary saga. Seems a fairly straightforward thing to get sorted out. The player wants to come here. We know the transfer fee. The transfer fee is reasonable, in my opinion. We do know that maybe we have to move a player on. And look, I understand that. Genuinely, I do understand that. Klopp doesn't want to bring in another midfielder and have 8 first team midfielders there for 3 positions, as well as a couple of the youngsters. So I get that. I genuinely understand the thought process behind moving a midfielder on. But why don't we just go out there and get Thiago and then worry about moving the midfielder on? I mean, what's the worst case scenario here? Barcelona don't come in for Wijnaldum and we're stuck with him and we spend 30 million on Thiago. Fair enough. We'll figure it out another way. Maybe we loan somebody else out, or maybe we try and move somebody on. I don't really give a shit, to be honest with you, because we need to get somebody in who can unlock defences. And players like Thiago, with 1 year left on their contract, Champions League winner, Spanish international, pretty much won everything in the game. They don't come around at this price every day. We've seen Thiago glide through that little mini tournament and win the Champions League with Bayern Munich, and he was the standout player for me in the midfield in the final as well. And now it looks like Barcelona's interest in Thiago could be cooling, and there's a couple of reports that Ronald Koeman has gotten his way, because there was a bit of a divide in the Barcelona board. Ronald Koeman and a couple of people were happy and wanted Gini Wijnaldum. Obviously Ronald Koeman knows exactly what he'd get from Gini, having worked with him in the Dutch national team, and they're going in for Memphis Depay as well, because it looks like they can't get Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan, so they turn into Memphis Depay as an option. But there was talk of Thiago, and thankfully that seems to be put to bed by some very good Barcelona-based journalists who said that Ronald Koeman looks like he's going to get his way and Gini's the target. So if anything else now, Gini's the target, so we know that potentially we can go out there and get Thiago, because we know that this little three-piece jigsaw we've been talking about, this little trifecta of Barcelona moving a midfielder on, check, done. Gini Wijnaldum maybe moving to Barcelona, could be done. That's what they want, and us to go and get Thiago. Why is it taking so long? It's ridiculous. What's the point in this brinksmanship of sitting back and just waiting? Get it done. Get Klopp a few minutes working with these players. Get Thiago in, and then maybe move Gini on. And look, I say this like it's very simple to just move Gini on. I love Gini Wijnaldum. Every Liverpool fan I know loves Gini Wijnaldum. This isn't a case of trying to force Gini out the door, but this seems to be the way this is going to unfold. So why the hell should we sit back and let it take so long? It just seems ridiculous for a transfer committee and a transfer board that have done wonders and that deserve our respect and have our respect. This just seems nickel and diamond. That's the only phrase I can use. Some other reports that Chelsea being interested in Thiago have been ruled out by Fabrizio Romano, and Manchester United have also not had any direct contact with Bayern Munich over the player, but they have had some chats with his agents, I think. But again, I don't know quite how serious the interest is for Manchester United and Thiago, but it all leads back to one thing. Klopp wants Thiago, Thiago wants Liverpool, Liverpool fans want Thiago. Get it done. I don't know what else to say. Just get it done. Get that deal done. Get him in here. You get the whole fan base immediately lifted. Everybody. The Thiago shirt will start flying out the door. That 20% will start coming in rather quick. And Thiago's wages don't seem to be a massive issue, by the way. I mean, from what I've read, his wages are quite realistic. There was some talk from Sky Sports as well on this. I think it might have been Carvey Solocol, excuse me if I'm wrong on it, suggesting that Liverpool are potentially happy to sit back and sign Thiago in a pre-contract in January for next summer. That's under the assumption that Thiago is going to stay at Bayern Munich, a club that he's already told he wants to move on from, and a club that, you know, he said his goodbyes to. We said this a while back. There was, you know, the end of the season after they won the Champions League, there was a bit of a do for the players, and Thiago brought his family there and he said his goodbyes to the players. Jan Fjortov spoke about it. I think even Christian Falk had tweeted about this or spoken about it on a podcast. It's madness. It's just absolute lunacy. It's like we're trying to shoot ourselves in the foot after doing what we've waited 30 years to do. It's not a good look going into the start of a new campaign. It really isn't. And I feel for the manager, because as much as publicly he's going to put on a brave face and publicly he's going to say he knew what he was working with and publicly he's going to back his players, because that's what Klopp does. And that's what's gotten us to where we are. That belief that he instills in that squad and the players. And we love Jurgen for that. And we've not a bad word to say about the gaffer and all of this. What have we got? FSG really annoying. We got 175 million for winning the league and can't even give Bayern 30 million for Thiago, who might be a first team starter if Gini leaves. Look, the finances are quite tricky, as I've said before, but what it boils down to is that Liverpool's owners are very good when it comes to improving infrastructure. They loaned Liverpool the money for the main stand. Obviously, we can't forget about the fantastic new training facility at Kirby. That's pretty much ready to go as well. And they're happy to do that. And they're happy to do that pretty much interest-free. From my very limited understanding of these things, that loan for the main stand, I think, had maybe 3% interest on it, something like that. I think that's put in there to cover the cost of inflation, from what I've been told by people far better at accounting than I will ever be. So that's grand and that's sound, but why not do that? Just even if it's a once off this summer to get a couple of players in, a couple of players who, you know, we need to tweak to just cover the gaps to allow us to go out there and really challenge on four fronts this season, which is what we need to be doing. We have, up to 2024 with Jurgen Klopp as our manager. Let's not dick about. Let's capitalise on it. And look, there's another side to this that we haven't touched on yet, and that is the younger players coming through. And that again is an area where our recruitment team have excelled in and our coaches have done really well. And there's not all negatives. We have to look at bringing in the likes of Harvey Elliott last summer. Very good piece of business. We've gone out there and signed Sepp van den Berg. We got Billy Cometio. We got Kylian Hoover. The list goes on. Curtis Jones breaking through into the first team. Brilliant. Caoimhín Kelleher starting to make strides. Called up a senior Irish international. Call up for him as well. Brilliant. Loads of good news there. And I'm happy for our youngsters. And there's more along the way. You've seen over the summer a lot of people signing their first professional contracts with the club. That's class. But there is this little gap. There's this period between Klopp's first team and Klopp's second team, and a couple of those younger players are just still that little bit too far away to really make an impact. So maybe they go out on loan, a couple of them. Now, we've always spoken about Harvey Elliott, and the thing about Harvey Elliott was the club were always looking at the long term with Harvey, and rightly so. That kid's a Liverpool fan through and through. He looks like a superstar, and he'll be here for the long haul. Brilliant. No argument about that. Right, what have we got? Bernadette sent in a super chat to say, what if Klopp saying to FSG, I want my own homegrown team, that's how he works? I mean, I've got to be honest, Bernadette, I haven't really given that much thought. I do know that Klopp loves to improve players on the field to the coaching. Brilliant. That's what he's brought in for. I get it. And there is a point to what you're saying, Bernadette, so I'm not trying to just brush this off. But we know that he wanted Timo Werner, Bernadette. We know that he seems to want Thiago. And there are probably a few other players that I could drop as well that we know that Jurgen Klopp wanted and we didn't get for various reasons. So I've no doubt that Klopp probably isn't as worked up about this as I am and other Liverpool fans are, because he believes in himself, he believes in the squad that he has there. A squad, by the way, that won the Premier League at a canter this season by 18 points. But it's important to point out as well that when we lost the Premier League by 25 points to Manchester City, we closed that gap to 1 point the following year. So these massive point swings are capable of happening. But even if we don't do any business, we're still going to be challenging this season. But it just seems like a bit of an own goal. Do you know what I mean? When we could potentially add a little bit of a talent to the squad for a reasonable fee, boost the fan base, boost the manager, and give us a real spring in our step going into the new Premier League campaign, because we kind of finished with a bit of a whimper last year. We won the Premier League, brilliant. We celebrated it, brilliant. But then again, you know, we weren't ourselves from that point on, and it's easy to say that's because the players kind of dropped down a gear or two because they knew the job was done. We still had a few things to chase. Do you know what I mean? We still could have gone and got 100 points. We still could have broken some more records, and it didn't work out. And then we went out, obviously, we sat back and we watched the other clubs play this little mini tournament, the Champions League, and it was a bit of a downer not to be part of that, obviously getting knocked out by Atleti. And it's weirdly turned in from a point where we're all celebrating the Holy Grail, the Premier League title, to a point where we all feel a little bit disheartened going into the... Well, excuse me, I can't speak for everybody. I feel a little bit disheartened going into the new season. Now, I'm going to still back these players 100%. I'm going to be on here screaming at referees left, right and centre. But look, this is just my take on it. As always, ladies and gents, I'd love to know what you guys have to say. Please do hit the subscribe button, by the way, if you're enjoying the content, albeit tonight maybe not the happiest of nights to be with us. And do give us a thumbs up or a like, whatever you call it. I don't know, whatever the cool kids call it. Give us one of them. Joanne, thank you for the super chat. Said, do you think there might be a signing and announcement from Klopp on Friday's press conference? Would be a great shock for the Premier League. I don't know if it could be kept that under wraps, Joanne. Now, Connor pointed out to me the other day that Liverpool had removed their pinned tweet, but, you know, nothing had happened since then. And, you know, that is one of the little signs us as fans look out for. And I'd love that to be the case, Joanne. I really would. But, again, at this moment in time, it's not looking that way. It's a bit of an anomaly, this one as well, because normally from what we've been used to, the window closes now before the league campaign starts, but that's not the case this summer. So, you know, we've got the guts of a month between the Premier League starting on September the 12th and the window closing on October the 5th, so it's at 3 weeks anyway, and where clubs can still do business. And I don't want this to be distracting the lads on the pitch. I want us to go out there on Saturday against Leeds and put 3 points on the board and put in a good performance. I don't want any distractions, and I don't want stuff to be affecting the fan base either. Gary Jones, welcome back to Anfield. Welcome back to Anfield Agenda FC, Gary. Sorry, you've hit the 6 month mark as well. Nice one. Well done, Gary. Thanks for being with us. Right, more transfer talk to go through, ladies and gentlemen. Harry Wilson. There's a few clubs sniffing around Harry Wilson, but apparently Liverpool are holding out till they get close to the £20 million mark, which is what they value the player at. On Wilson, I'm almost at pains to say this because I said this about BREWSTER and things changed. But everything again that you're reading suggests Liverpool will not loan out Harry Wilson because he's had 3 consecutive loans, I think, and he wants to put down roots and he wants to know where he is. So it seems to be the feeling at the club is if we get to £20 million or close to it that we're asking, he's available. If we don't, he'll remain a Liverpool player. I'd love to know your thoughts on that as well. Are we being a bit too hard there? Is he worth £20 million? I mean, I wouldn't be buying him at £20 million if I'm being quite frank with you in this window. I think maybe his value is somewhere closer to between 15, maybe 12 to 15, something like that. But we know Michael Edwards is a master of this kind of stuff. Clubs that are interested, by the way, in him or have registered their interest, and there is no shortage of it. Aston Villa are thought to be the most interested club in Wilson. We spoke about that earlier on. They've just completed, or are just about to complete, a £28 million deal for Ollie Watkins at Brentford. And it remains to be seen if they'll follow up their initial interest with an offer for Wilson. And for his sake as well, I actually hope something works out in this window, because I think Harry Wilson deserves the chance to go out there and prove what he can do in the Premier League, albeit I don't think he's Liverpool quality from what I've seen. Right, what else have we got in the chat? Leeds will be up and fighting, so it won't be easy. Yeah, they will. And look, Bielsa won't have left any stone unturned. I'm expecting Leeds to come and be difficult on Saturday. I did a preview show with the guys from All Leeds TV, and it was brilliant. And, you know, my prediction on that game was a 2-1 win for the Reds. And, of course, we'll do our preview show on Thursday, as we always do a couple of days before the game. Paul the Prince said Harry Wilson deserves to be at Liverpool. Can I genuinely ask you a sincere question, Paul? What has he done to prove that he deserves to be at Liverpool? That is my answer, seriously. Or my question, excuse me. Couple of worldy goals, free kick against United, couple of other bits and pieces, a few match of the day highlights, but watching him week in and week out, or watching a full 90 minutes of him when he got a full 90 minutes, because let's not forget, Bournemouth were fighting relegation and he still wasn't really getting a start a lot of the time. So if he's not doing it for Brentford, who are in a relegation fight, I don't think he can do it for Liverpool, mate, at the top of the league or on a big European night. And that's my honest opinion. But I'd genuinely love to know what you think about it. Craig, do you believe that Jones can become as good as Thiago or better? I don't want to compare Curtis Jones to anybody, but what do I think his ceiling is? The kid has the potential to be... How do I phrase this? A first team mainstay within a couple of seasons. I think that's the best way I can say. I don't want to throw around the phrase world class, because it's thrown around a little bit too much, to be honest with you, and I don't want to put that much pressure on Curtis Jones' young shoulders. But you see him, he's a leader. He takes this stuff on his shoulders, and he doesn't miss a beat. I mean, I've nothing but high hopes and positivity around Curtis Jones. I love the kid. I love his attitude. I love the fact that he's basically kicking down the manager's door to say, I'm ready, gaffer, start me. That's leadership, and that's what we want at the football club. That's the type of mentality that is in that dressing room, and I'm sure that that'll be being fostered as well, but by Jordan Henderson, with James Milner, and they'll be feeding into that belief in young Curtis Jones, who is quality, no doubt about it, absolute quality. What have we got? He scored more than Sarr though, and we want him, said Leighton Keane. Again, Leighton, you've made a fair point, and I don't know the stats, by the way, with Wilson against Sarr. I don't have them to hand. But with Sarr, you can see the potential. You can see the raw talent. Let's not forget, he's only had one season in the Premier League, Sarr. And now, I know you can make the same argument for Wilson, so I hear you. But you can see the potential there in Sarr, and I can't quite see the same obvious potential in Wilson, albeit he does have a bit of a wand of a left foot, to be fair. But you know, we could easily compare him to Shaqiri in that regard as well, who also has a bit of a wand of a foot and hasn't done too much. But look, this is all just my opinion, and I'm not saying what I have to say is factual. I'm happy to listen to anybody's opinion. What have we got? Sean C said, most fans aren't asking for much, just as a Thiago, maybe a centre back. This is nothing really. We have such a top manager who never moans about transfers. And thank you for the super chat, Sean. And yeah, you know what, mate? You're spot on. I don't really have anything to disagree with there. And I kind of echo what you've said, mate, to be honest with you. We do have an amazing manager who will work at whatever he's given. But we don't want Jurgen Klopp's last few years at the club not to be as successful as the previous ones. We want the gaffer to go out with a bang and add more silverware, because that's what his dynasty deserves. We want to look back at Jurgen Klopp's time at Liverpool Football Club and start counting trophies. Look at him up there with Shanks and Paisley and Fagan and Kenny Dalglish, and the real heroes of this football club, the legends of this football club, the managers who's Rafa Benitez bringing us a European Cup as well. And no matter what happens now, Jurgen Klopp will always be mentioned with them, but there's still more trophies to be won if this manager's backed. And I mean a lot of trophies. We've got, 4 seasons left with the gaffer. 4 seasons, a trophy and a half a season, 6, 7, 8 trophies maybe over the course of a few years. And that's the next manager who comes in. Unbelievable talent to work with the next generation. So
Just give him what he deserves. Give Jurgen Klopp. He's not asking for the sun, the moon, and the stars. He's not out there looking for Kylian Mbappe and Neymar. I don't know, man. It's frustrating. Thiago needs to be our main target, said Pearl. Hey Craig, love coming back from schools to enjoy the live stream with this awesome community. Thank you, Dark Shadow, and it's lovely to have you with us, mate. I believe BREWSTER should be given a chance. He at least deserves that much, said Atnoy. And I agree. I mean, I can understand the loan point with BREWSTER if the manager realistically feels that he won't be able to give him enough time to develop and to shine. I mean, he scored 11 goals, I think it was, in his 21 appearances for Swansea. And, you know, the Swansea manager, who obviously he'd worked with at the underage level with England as well, Steve Cooper, nothing but positive things to say about him. Said he was a great guy around the club, lots of banter and fun in the changing room, and he worked hard and wanted to learn. And we've seen that in pre-season as well. He stepped up and he's shown he's a natural goal scorer. So I could completely understand the loan. And I think a loan is probably the smart move if we were to bring in another forward. But this talk is selling him. I don't, even if it is just to free up money in the short term, I think it just looks bad on the club. What have we got? BREWSTER being sold. Wait, what? Said Jack Green. Mate, you're kind of wrong there, mate. I mean, sometimes it does depend on positions, but our front three right now are in their prime. This is their prime years. Between, I would say, 27 and 30 are probably the prime years. We don't have that much of an aging squad, mate. Take James Milner out of that squad and you've a couple of players over the age of 30, but then you look down through and look at our full backs, quite young, both of them. Van Dijk, obviously, yeah, he's into his prime now as well, but look beside him, Joe Gomez, very young centre-back. So, I hear where you're coming from, but I did touch on the fact that we do have some good young players, but there's still a gap to be bridged. Do you know what I mean? There's still a gap to be bridged between Klopp's first team and Klopp's next team, or his second side, if you want to call it that. It would be such a waste to sell him, said Leighton Keane. We have 4 weeks to go. Let's get negative then, said Dave Smith. And look, I love that, Dave. And that's the way I want to be, mate. That deep down, that is the way I want to be, but it just looks like we're getting to this situation, Dave, where in 4 weeks' time, it's not going to be great. I mean, of course, I'm willing to wait and see what happens, mate, but it would be nice to get some positive vibes, wouldn't it? Some positive signs coming out from the club, that a little bit of business is going to be done. I mean, I've not seen much positivity, mate, from the journos either, if I'm being honest about it. Crosby in with the fuck him emoji, there you go. And if you want to use those emojis like the ones Connor's put into the chat there, as I said earlier on, all you have to do is hit the join button and become a member of Anfield Agenda FC. Look, ladies and gentlemen, there's a little bit of a quiz up on the Anfield Agenda Flick chat, and I'd love to know if you guys have taken the quiz, and I'd love to know what your score is. And here's why I'm so interested in this one. As you know, I love the Flick chat app, and I'm on there daily, and I've been urging our subscribers to go over there and give it a try. I put up a quiz last night myself called How Well Do You Know Craig? And there's 8 questions about me, what I like, how I met my wife, loads of other bits and pieces as well. And I've yet to find a single person that's gotten 8 out of 8 in that quiz. Oh, and by the way, I'm including my wife in that. Oh yes, she only got 7 out of 8. And I'm including Mr. Crosby as well, who also got 7 out of 8. So it's a little bit unnerving to think that Crosby probably knows me as well as my wife. But again, that's the type of stuff that we do over in the Flick chat app. We've got polls as well over there for, you know, who you think we should buy, man of the match, stuff like that. And it's going to be a really big part of our post-match game shows moving forward as well. So please do have a look in the description of this stream. There is a link there to the Flick chat app. When you join the app, you get 2 free cheers, which are basically a little pixel thing that you can use to cheer, and you get 2 of them free, and each one of them is worth 25p to us as a channel, so you might as well use them because the app's free to download, free to use, and those are like a tip that are given to you, and all you can do with them is really tip us with them. So if you are on Flick chat, make sure you click on that little icon dude down in the corner that has the sunglasses on, and you'll see them all there. Right, Sean C said FSG have been great in most aspects, but if they don't invest or won't invest any of their own money after Klopp, we may need an investor to compete. We don't ask for much. Now, on that, Sean, interestingly enough, you've raised a point that I've kind of forgotten about. We spoke last week about Billy Bean. Remember Billy Bean, the guy from Moneyball? Well, he's put together a whole heap of money, somewhere close to 500 million, I think, and he's looking to invest it in a football club. And there was talk that maybe, obviously, with the connection that he had with our owner, who tried to get him from the Athletics to the Boston Red Sox because of the Moneyball system that he used in baseball, that maybe he could come and be a minority investor in the club. And the club and the owners have always said that they're open to that if it is the right partnership. They're open to bringing on somebody, selling a stake in the club, a minority stake, freeing up some funds and reinvesting those. But as things stand, that's not looking like it's going to happen before the window closes. But it is something to keep an eye on for down the line, because the owners have always said that if it helps push the club onto the next level, if it's the right strategic partnership, they are willing to sell a minority stake in the club. But as I said, I've not seen anything new on this since that Billy Bean story broke last week. And if you want to look up more stuff on Billy Bean, by the way, I think he already has links with Barnsley, I think, if my memory is correct on that one, and also one of the Dutch clubs as well. I think he works as an advisor towards one of them. Selling BREWSTER is daft. How much for a good natural goal scorer? The price seems to be 20 million, Robert, but the caveat being that there will be a buyback clause in there, which, worst case scenario, we should be putting in that contract, but still ridiculous to even think about. Like, you're not going to hear Manchester United talk about selling Mason Greenwood to free up funds so Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can go out there and get himself, I don't know, insert a player, I don't really care, Sancho, whoever. That's just, you wouldn't see that. Do you know what that's where I'm getting at here? You wouldn't see that. Just loan the kid out if you want to loan him out. Get your little transfer, your little loan fee for Raheem. Get his wages covered. I mean, I think this is, even the talk of this is massively disrespectful to Raheem BREWSTER as well, by the way. Somebody who had his choice of clubs when he signed for Liverpool Football Club. You remember we cancelled that friendly with Borussia Mönchengladbach because they were sniffing around BREWSTER a little bit too much for our liking, and we put the kibosh on that one. Raheem BREWSTER was told when he signed for Liverpool Football Club that there was going to be a pathway through to the first team for him, and that should be the case. So loaning him is grand, keeping him at the club grand, but selling him? How does that put the good vibes out to Raheem BREWSTER? How is that telling that kid, go out there, mate, into the Premier League, bang yourself a load of goals, we believe in you, sort of, because we've sold you, and put a buyback clause in there, just in case you go out and take the Premier League by storm? How is that showing the kid that we've got faith in him? Even talking about this making my blood boil. How patient can us England fans be? We need a new manager. I really couldn't give a shiny shit about England, mate, to be honest with you. Nor any international football, really. It's actually embarrassing that we're even debating selling BREWSTER, said Lewis. Yeah, the conversation shouldn't be happening. I never thought that I'd be sitting here tonight having this conversation. And look, it's still not nailed on, by the way. This was only something that was put out there from Sky Sports, and I know some people hold Sky Sports in some kind of high esteem, but I've got to be honest with you, when it comes to transfer stuff, I don't pay any heed to what they have to say, really, because I have my own thoughts about Sky Sports contact and where they get their stuff from. And put it this way, if there was, brackets of A, B, C, D where I was putting my transfer gossip, they'd be in probably pile C of who I'd look to. I'd look to the Paul Joyces, the James Pearces, the Melissa Reddys, Fabrizio Romanos, those kind of people when it comes to transfers. What have we got? I'm English and I don't care about England, said Hex Boom. There was something else actually that happened today, and again, it's not good news, but it's not good news for a lot of clubs around Europe. So UEFA have agreed to pay a rebate of around £520 million to broadcasters after the enforced reduction in games due to the global mess that we're all in right now. Unlike the Premier League, though, this rebate won't impact all clubs. It'll only impact the clubs that have taken part in Europe. So you're talking about Liverpool, Spurs, City, Chelsea, United, Arsenal and Wolves that might have to be part of this. I think from what I've read, clubs are going to have to soak up about 90% of this £520 million rebate, because obviously, the quarterfinals and the semi-finals of the Champions League were cut down to one-legged affairs, and unlike the Premier League, where I'm still a little bit baffled as to why we had to rebate television companies when, if anything, they had more of a captive audience. This one, I understand the rebate because there was genuinely less games for them to broadcast, but again, it's another knock for clubs that took part in Europe and another bit of a financial hit. Klopp just doesn't know how to buy players, is how I see it, said Jamie. That's you're talking about somebody there, mate, who went out and unearthed Robert Lewandowski, who went out and picked up Andy Robertson from Hull, who went out there and got Fabinho. You're talking about a manager who knows how to work in the transfer market. So to say Klopp doesn't know how to buy players is one of the most naive things, mate. I think I'm trying to be respectful here, one of the most naive things I've heard from a Liverpool fan or a football fan in a while, because that would definitely be in the can definitely do pile for Jurgen Klopp, in my opinion anyway, and I think in most people's opinion. Anything else to finish up? But Rod's in the chat. Rod, good morning, mate. Lovely to see you in again. I hope you're well. Lots of love to the family. Look, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much me for tonight. That's pretty much all I have to say. I'm hoping that I'm going to be back. Well, I will be back tomorrow, but I'm hoping that I'm going to be back here with some more positive news. Because I'm not going to lie to you. The streams like tonight are not what we want to be talking about. We want to be looking ahead to our defence of the Premier League campaign. We want to be going into this full of confidence. And look, we have belief in these guys. We believe in our squad. We believe in our manager. But this is still frustrating times, and it doesn't need to be, in my opinion. There are ways that this window could have went a whole lot better. And I think this is one of those we'll look back on, and I think that the owners will have to learn from this as well, because, you know, as much good stuff as they have done, you know, they're not perfect, and we have every right as fans to step up and open a debate. I think you need to be respectful in these conversations, and I don't think you need to be, you know, flying planes over Anfield with FSG out, and you don't need to be starting all that nonsense, because it is nonsense. I don't want the owners out, but I do want them to look at things maybe in a different light, particularly in the environment and the climate that we're in financially. But look, ladies and gentlemen, as I said, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come on and have a chat with me. I hope you enjoyed the stream. Please do hit that subscribe button and drop a like. But most importantly, I want you guys to get your ass onto that Flick Chat app, because I promise you we're going to have some fun on there. And I want to know if you get 8 out of 8 in the How Well Do You Know Craig quiz. Again, there is a link in the description if you want to come and join it. It's absolutely free. You can get it from the Google Play Store, the Apple App Store. Doesn't cost that to use. There's no ads in it. If you're a parent, it's a pretty good app, to be fair. I would let my child use it. But I'm not telling anyone how to be a parent. But look, lots of love to each and every one of you. I'm sorry if tonight was a bit of a downbeat stream, because it's not the direction that this channel goes. We're not here to, you know, jump up and down and fume, but we are here to give an honest opinion, and that's what you will always get from me, Connor, and everybody involved in our little channel. Again, happy birthday to Theo. I hope he's having a wonderful day. I love each and every one of you guys. Thank you for your support. Up the Reds.